Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at this little TV with a CRT radio combo. Alright, so I got this guy at Goodwill. It was $4.99, and I thought for $5 to have a little tiny CRT would be pretty sweet. Now normally Goodwill has a power bar hooked up where you can test out electronics before you buy them. However, unfortunately at Goodwill when I was there, their power bar wasn't working. I tried to take a look at that. It was plugged into the wall, but the switch did nothing. And I plugged in like 5 or 6 random things they had lying around, and none of them got power. So I don't know if this works. Goodwill, I think, typically does test these kind of things before they put them on the shelf, but also, who knows, it's Goodwill. They could just put stuff out there. So this is a GPX Grand Prix Model number TV2. So let's take a look at this online to see some info about it, since I know nothing about it other than what you can see here. Clearly there used to be a covering of some sort here that would tell you what these various gauges and dials did that was glued on and is now missing. We've got radio tuning, time, alarm, TV tuning, and a power cord. Here's some inputs on the back. We've got TV antenna in, and then some CRT controls here. There's also what appears to be a battery bay here, and I'm worried that that is corroded. I could not get that open at the Goodwill, so let's try to get that open here and see if there's anything that looks really terrible in there. There certainly might be. I'm trying to do it without damaging the plastic, but I think that might be a little tricky. Almost there. Ah, there we go. So this is not a battery to run the device. This is a battery to keep track of time in the event of a power outage. Let's see if we can get that out of there. And this is an old Rayovac battery. Rayovac hasn't used this logo in a long time. Yeah, so it's actually a pretty cool battery. An old Rayovac, and it's not swollen, it's not leaked. This was when Rayovac was still headquartered here in Madison, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, no date on here. But they say they will repair or replace at their option any device damaged by this battery if sent. Huh. Well, that's almost too bad it didn't damage anything. Would have been nice to have Rayovac fix this for me, though I doubt they still honor that warranty. Alright, so that looks good. Yeah, like I said, let's go online. Before I got distracted, let's see what we can find out about this. Alright, so GPX Model TV2, I think is what I said, right? Grand Prix Model number TV2. Portable black and white TV AM FM. Alright, so there's some people selling them on eBay for $60. Let's take a look at the picture here so we can at least see what's on the front. Is there any sort of specs about it? This looks like it's the same one. $40 on eBay. Here's a YouTube video from Radio TV PhonoNet. Most likely from the late 90s, early 2000s. These are almost worthless as a portable. Well, yeah, because they need to be plugged in, so not really truly a portable, I would say, but okay, here's Reddit. Oh, and that's for a mouse. Okay, so not a lot of info. Did this image load? It did. Alright. So let's see these buttons here. That's a pretty low-res image. Maybe I can find a better one. Off, on, auto, TV, radio, AM, FM, alarm clock. It's got this pretty That's a very like 90s looking outline for the tuner areas here. That's kind of cool. It's too bad this one doesn't have that faceplate. I wonder if I can like get a copy of one of these pictures that's higher res and print one out and just kind of maybe laminate it and paste it on there. That might be what I'll do. That's pretty cool. Okay, so not a lot of info about it. A few of them for sale, so they must have made a bunch of them. If there's that many survivors that people are selling, worth saving. ABS for them. Originally bought this one for its portability, being able to plug in whatever room. Okay, yeah, so it's portable in that sense. Simply plug it in. Okay. Yeah, never be as useful as it once was because it does not get HD videos, only NTSC. But you could hook cable up to it, sure. Alright, but not a ton of info. Okay. Alright, so looking at this one, there's definitely some rust on the little stand that it has. So you can point it up at yourself. It's fairly dirty. I've seen worse, but it's a bit dirty. And then these screws are rusted on the bottom. So that does have me a little nervous about what might be going on inside. So before I plug it in, I do want to take it apart. Let's see if there's anything going on. Looks like we've got some screws on the side. One on each side and then two on the bottom. And I see these two holes here. I don't know what's inside. I don't think there's screws in there. I can't quite see. But I would imagine that there's not. Alright, so let's start with the side screws here. Let's pop this one out. And then we'll pop this one out. And then the two rusty ones on the bottom. Let's see how easily these come out, or if they're rusted in. Not too bad. It doesn't look like it's rusty all the way up, just on the bottom. So maybe there was some water got onto whatever shelf this thing was sitting on. Who knows? Alright, so with those off, can we slide this back piece off? Seems like it wants to go, but it's caught on the top like there's a catch. I don't quite know. Hopefully there's not screws in here. Doesn't feel like there are. I don't think those are screws. Alright. There we go. So it's open, but seems to be a lot of things connected on the back that we need to unplug to get them separated here. I don't necessarily want to unplug everything, so let me show you what we got so far. So inside we have a little NEC CRT. So this is held in with this wire bracket here, but this is an NEC cathode ray tube, type number C5124P4. So it's just a tiny little black and white CRT, tiny little neck board. And just looking at the boards in here, I don't see any real dirt, damage, corrosion. Look at the bottom. Yeah, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. There's some weird blobs of solder on here. Looks like a bodge resistor. Might be some liquid damage. Could be flux. I don't know if this has been cleaned after it was made. I'm sure it was, but I've got some sort of wire here for the tuner, I think. But okay. I'd say overall it looks like it's in pretty good condition. On the back I see a big transformer and a speaker, and it's got that kind of vintage electronics smell. Alright, Alright, so let me reconnect these two wires that I disconnected if I can. Oftentimes it's easier to disconnect things than to reconnect them. Alright, so that's everything back together. Alright, so let's switch this to off. So that's off, on, auto. Switch it to off. I forgot which one was TV already. TV is the third one over, and it should be to the left. And it is. And I don't know what this is. I think it says VHF, UHF. There we go. Okay. VL, VH, UHF. Okay, so let's go to VL. TV, clock, countdown. We go to clock, AM, FM. Let's go to FM, and then this slider here is volume. So we'll keep that minimum. And yeah, let's plug it in. And oddly enough, it also has an outlet on the side here. This looks like the kind of outlet you'd see in a bathroom for an electric razor. So you could plug something else into it. It is polarized, but I can't imagine what you would plug into that. It's interesting. Maybe, I guess, if you wanted to put this in your bathroom, this would plug into where the shaver went, and then you would have your shaver plugged into here. Alright, so I have it switched to off. I'm pretty positive it's a hard power switch, so nothing should happen when I plug it in. And nothing happened when I plugged it in. Let's turn it. Here. So, this is where something might happen, or this is where nothing might happen. Let's switch this to on. See if we get anything on the CRT. The clock's flashing. And look at that. We have static on the CRT. I don't know how well it's coming through on the camera, the reflection of the light, but yeah. Seems to be working, so we should have some noise here. And we do. Very cool. So I don't have an external antenna hooked up, but it does have this internal one. We don't have any NTSC channels here anymore. I think there might be like one religious station, if we're going to be able to find it. I'm also in my basement, so it's very possible I just don't have any sort of signal down here from that station. And they might have stopped broadcasting too. I haven't checked in a long time. But that's not a problem. I don't plan on watching over-the-air television on this anyway. This would be for hooking up to any of the various computers I have that can output black and white or mono color signal. But before we do that, let's go ahead and test the radio. Let's see if that works. So the third one we switch to radio. That turns the tube off. So turn the volume up a little. Alright, we'll turn that down before we get a copyright strike. But yeah, the radio sounds like it works too. That's pretty cool. It's almost too bad that you can't have the radio playing while you're watching TV. I understand why they wouldn't want that, but given my use, it'd be cool to be jamming out to like the local top 40 station while I'm playing some game on a tiny little 5-inch black and white CRT. Alright, so let's turn the TV back on. There we go. So now, the external antenna is here. So we need to either find or fashion a way to get that in. And I think I might have something for that, so I'll need to look. Alright, so I couldn't quite find an EXT antenna cable. I know I've got some somewhere, but I spent some time looking around and I couldn't find them. But I've got the next best thing. So what I have is a 1/8 inch to 1/8 inch headphone cable. This will plug in to the external antenna in. Then on this end, I will plug in a clip lead to the signal and a clip lead to ground. Hopefully I have that the right way. I don't remember which was which, but so we got two clip leads plugged in. To the clip leads, I will then plug in to these two wires here. Might as well match colors because I don't know if it's right, but I can at least pretend like we know what we're doing. All right, and on the other end of the wires, I have an RCA. Well, it goes out to RCA, then I have an RCA changer to make it go to female, and then I have a pair of RCA cables, so we'll take white and plug that in. So now I should be able to take this and plug it in to the GPX, and this and plug it into any device that outputs on channel 2, 3, 4, or whatever. So let's pull a machine out here. I happen to have my RE65XE handy. So let's go ahead and plop that down here, and we'll plug white in to it into the television output, and it's set to channel 3. And I have one of my favorite Atari games loaded. You'll see that in a moment, hopefully, if this all works out like I expect it to. Alright, so let's plug power into my Atari. Alright, and then we'll take this and plug it into EXTN. So we've got it going from RCA to wires. One just fell out. Let me fix that. To clip leads to headphone 1/8 inch. Now this should work. I think there's going to be a lot of interference. The quality is not going to be the best, but I think we should get signal if I've got these hooked up right. So let's go ahead and switch it on. Not radio, on TV. Make sure the volume works. Okay, so that CRT should power on here. There it is. Alright, and then we want to do VL, which I believe we're set to. So let's go ahead and flip the Atari on. Alright, that's good. Now we just need to tune it to channel 3. Let's turn the volume up a little bit. It should be outputting volume. Let's see if we can find the signal. There we go. It looks like we're getting something at least. Yeah, like I said, the quality is probably not going to be great. So with the real cable, I think the quality would be much better, but we're at least showing that we can pick up signal here. So let me go ahead and start the game. Alright, and I've got my controller hooked up. Yeah, I love this game. This is Kicks or Quicks. I'm not really sure how to say it, but it's just a super fun game. I love it. Ah. All right, so the machine works, the radio works, the CRT works, and it can accept input from. Let me turn the volume back down. From an Atari 65XE. So. I would say this thing probably is working pretty well, and I guess unfortunately I don't need to do any repairs on it. I was always kind of hoping that there'd be something that I could fix. Obviously I need a new EXT cable because this is not really great, but hey, it works. So I guess the only thing I can really fix is the faceplate that fell off. So I actually went ahead and printed one out on my printer. And I spent a little bit of time trying to size this up correctly and cutting out all the holes. And as you can see here, if we can line it up, we got a pretty darn good fit. Oh, look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on. Alright, so I've got a little bit of glue here. I'm just going to put some onto my paper. I thought about like laminating this, but this whole thing was only $5, so I don't need to get too crazy. Plus, it's not like I'm going to be using this in a portable sense. This is just going to be sitting on top of a computer somewhere. Yeah, so let's line that up. Push it down. Alright, I think we're pretty good there. So now, the only problem I had with this was that there were no good straight-on pictures of the display online that I could find anywhere. know, they're all kind of a little bit askewed, a little bit small. The resolution wasn't great, so I had to, you know, take it and stretch out the bottom to make it square. So it's a little bit distorted, but it's not too bad. And then the resolution's not great. So if you can see it in person, you can say, oh, you know, it's a little fuzzy. Clearly it's a picture that was enlarged and printed out, which is exactly what it was. But I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty hard to tell that this isn't the real thing that came with it. So there we go. So we'll call this little GPX guy, I guess, fixed. Not that it was truly broken, just missing the faceplate. So yeah, that's all I got for you in this video. I'll get the cable, but I don't know what I'm going to put this on specifically. I mean, this might look good on an Apple II. Obviously, it works with the 65XE. I got a bunch of things I think I could use it with. Plus, it's got the built-in radio, which is fun. So for $5 plus the cost of a piece of paper and some toner, having a tiny little black and white CRT, totally worth it in my opinion. I just love these little things. Alright, well thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video.
Hi guys! Make sure to like and subscribe, and watch more of our videos later. Bye!